Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Woke Bros. Of course, I'm Big Wos, aka Wosny Lambre. As always, I'm joined by the sultry Spaniard, my boy, on the west side of Los Angeles, in sunny Santa Monica, where it's not, Amistad heat over there.
Well, I'm actually in an undisclosed location. I'm not in LA right now. I'm in the bunker. Yeah, I'm in a bunker.
He's in an undisclosed location. Nando's relocated.
Yeah.
My boy has relocated. But Nando Vila, ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, we're going to talk about Donald Trump's executive order over the weekend mandating an extension of the unemployment benefits relief package. Really, it wasn't an order so much as a nod or, when you sneeze and you go, hurry up and extend it. You know when people do that? That's what Donald Trump did over the weekend to the Republican Senate, the Republican-controlled Senate. Ilhan Omar, people thought that was going to be a hotly contested primary out in Minnesota. She laid the smackdown on the competition over there. We're going to get into that. But first, of course, the big news of the week. Joe Biden announces Kamala Harris as his running mate for his presidential campaign in November for the election.
Queen.
Yes, queen. Yes, absolutely a yes, queen moment. To get the important stuff out of the way first, this is historic for many reasons. Kamala Harris is the first woman of Asian descent, of Western African descent, and we don't want to get into the intricacies of this because people want to make the difference. The fact that her father is descendant of West African slaves who got dropped off in Jamaica rather than America. People want to make that distinction. For the purposes of this show, we're not. She's a black woman. She's also an Indian woman. Yeah, man, it's historic for all of those reasons. She's a woman. She's black. She's Indian, East Asian. And she's the first of any of those kinds to be nominated vice president of these United States of America. Historic moment, and I think that's important. But honestly, Nando, for our purposes, for, the dirty, hippie, commie, socialist people that we are over here, this is kind of par for the course, right? Kamala Harris is definitional Democratic establishment person. She just checks every single box that, gets the dicks hard, the vaginas wet of the people who run the Democratic Party, right? She had the right jobs. She went to the right schools. She ticks off all of the demographic boxes that we just literally just mentioned. So it's like, it's the neoliberal sort of ethos at its apex. It's like, yes, we did it all in one swoop. We got a chick. Yeah. We got somebody who worked at the DA's office. We can bandy her about and say, look, we love Negroes. Look, we even love Asian people. Like, look at how great we are, the big tent party. And more importantly to those people, she is somebody who the money class loves. They love her so much. She moves effortlessly within those rooms. Nando actually shared with us a nice article in CNBC where anonymous people from within the money class were doing high fives and sort of twerking and tootsie rolling at the idea that Kamala was the pick here because they love her over there. That's important to the Democratic Party establishment. Like, as much as they like to be this fake ass for the people, populist, sort of working class, allegedly party, they love nothing more than people who can cozy up to the donor class. Kamala Harris is great on the fundraising circuit, right? Because, she is, by politician standards, very charismatic, She's an attractive person. Like she's just perfect. She's just the perfect choice for where the party's going. And strategically, Nando, and I've tried to mention this over and over and over again. Joe Biden and his campaign doubled down on cynicism, nothingness, do nothing, being unimaginative. You can't tell me what the unifying theme of this ticket is besides,
come on, man.
We're not Donald Trump.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. You don't want Donald Trump. There's no unifying message. This is not Barry in 2008 with the hope, with the we're going to get health care to every single American. There's nothing unifying this ticket besides not Trump. They're not offering people anything besides some vague idea of federal government stability and not being a lunatic, which fair enough. It won. You know what I'm saying? And picking Kamala Harris is basically a doubling down on those efforts. And to be fair, Nando, and I know I've been droning on for a minute here, to be fair, that shit worked and it won. Right? It won them the nomination. So the idea that they would do anything besides double down on the things that won them the nomination, which was, again, unimaginative. It's not like, oh, let's get more health care at cheaper rates for people. It's like, nah, let's just make Obamacare, just get back to whatever Obamacare was. That was great. It's just essentially status quo. America generally is fine for everybody. Maybe we need a couple of more black and women senators and Congress people and people on the boards of Google and Facebook. But for the most part, it's fine. That's what they ran on. That's what they're doubling down on. And that's what this choice signals.
I find it remarkable that it's been just a couple months since George Floyd was killed on national TV, which ignited a social uprising that was really unprecedented in American history, comprised obviously overwhelmingly by the voter base of the Democratic Party, and that in this moment of just profound social unrest and social uprising, the nominal kind of left of center party in the United States, the Democratic Party, the party that is in theory of those people, chooses a tough on crime prosecutor as their VP nominee, right? I mean, it's a slap in the face. It's a declaration of intentions that they don't need us, that they don't want us, that they will, cynically use the specter of the right to cow us into voting for them, and it's going to work. I mean, that's the sad reality of it. It's all going to work. Kamala, at the end of the day, again, like you said, it's just a great way to reinforce the status quo while feigning some very superficial kind of progressive intent. But when the reality is the ruling class absolutely loves her. I mean, it's the only kind of very, 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 very small silver lining in this whole thing is that it wasn't Susan Rice. It wasn't someone worse. It wasn't someone way more ideologically committed like Susan Rice or Pete Buttigieg or some other awful person like Amy Klobuchar or whatever. Kamala is slightly more cynical and I think kind of more of a weather vane than those people who are just deeply committed ideologues. She did in theory support Medicare for all at the beginning of her
She trotted it out, and then the idea of abolishing private insurers. She
started wiffle waffling, but it seemed clear that at the beginning of the campaign, she saw that that's where the energy was, and kind of pivoted there, even if it was cynical or whatever. Which means that she is movable, if that makes sense, because we've seen, and history has proven, and recent history has proven even more overwhelmingly, that the Veep choice of if the president ends up winning, so if Biden ends up winning, his Veep will be the standard bearer of the Democratic Party going forward. She will be the next Democratic nominee for president if Biden wins, right? If Biden loses, she probably I mean, she'll try again, but she's not like a guaranteed shoo-in. If Biden wins, she will be the next Democratic nominee. So we have to get used to the idea of Kamala being in our lives for a long time, and potentially becoming president, or at least running for president as the standard bearer of the Democratic Party. And in that sense, like, there is a very, 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 very small silver lining in that seems kind of willing to go with the energy in certain moments, whereas someone like Biden or someone like Hillary or someone like, Susan Rice, Pelosi will just tell the activist base to like shut the fuck up and get on with it, right? Again, it's dispiriting. I mean, the sort of candidate that had emerged in recent weeks as a sort of like olive branch to the left, but could also kind of play with the establishment, was Karen Bass from Los Angeles. She was absolutely murdered in the most cynical kind of political hack job way you can imagine, in that like they surfaced like some semi-nice comments she said about Fidel Castro after he died, saying like, I hope he rests in peace or some shit. And that she visited Cuba in 1973, and the Florida Democratic Party was like, this is going to cost us Florida. If they nominate this crazy commie, they're going to fucking cost us Florida. So they absolutely murdered her. They like circled the wagons against her. And they even tried to murder Kamala. I mean, some of the bigwigs in the Democratic Party, Ed Rendell and these kind of fossil cretins that still run everything, and are very close to Joe Biden.
The idea that the party would be taking marching orders from an Ed Rendell is like, dude, like it's definition of insanity. I get it, the PA and Delaware connection and whatever brotherhood. I get it on the surface level, but like substantively, Ed Rendell is a dinosaur, dude, a straight up fossil. And by the way, the type of cat who, can you name a place where he could win a Democratic primary? Like, he's done in Democratic politics as far as
Biden
viability.
Has revived his career 100%.
It's crazy, dude.
So yeah, Kamala, Yas Queen, very exciting.
And and look, it's important that we talk about, because this is the thing that's going to dominate the conversation for the next couple of weeks until we get into the stretch run of November, is sort of the mainstream media's discourse is going to be about the idea of her level of quote unquote liberalism. Right. They're going to be throwing that frisbee around. And you're going to hear some people, they're going to get smart enough people to go on there and be like, I mean, like, we're not talking about freaking Noam Chomsky here, guys. Like, we're talking about like a straight up establishment Dem. And, I think the proof that she is purely establishment is the New York Times described her as, quote, a pragmatic moderate. This is how pragmatically moderate she is. When she was Attorney General of California, Steve Mnuchin, who at the time was the CEO of a company called One West, was committing widespread foreclosure fraud. It literally taking mortgage contracts and whiting out the dates and backdating them and re-signing them to fraudulently foreclose upon homeowners in the financial crisis. It's like one of the most cartoon villain things you could do as a blood-sucking leech financial vampire. And the Kamala Attorney General's office, like the attorneys kind of like right below her, were building a case against him. They produced a 25-page memo outlining the widespread illegality and fraud of all of this that was going on, in which they were making millions of dollars by foreclosing on people illegally. And it got up to Kamala's office, and these attorneys were hungry. They were ready to prosecute. They were ready to sue One West. They were ready to stop this catastrophe from ongoing.
and Kamala quashed it. She refused to sue One West. She refused to prosecute Steve Mnuchin. Oh, and lo and behold, a few months later, a donation from Steve Mnuchin goes into her Senate campaign because that's what she was looking for from the AG's office. She was using it as a launching pad for her Senate career. And the donations of people like Steve Mnuchin were important to her. Steve Mnuchin, I remind everyone who is listening, is the current Secretary of the Treasury under Donald Trump. He is a cartoon villain. Like, you cannot find a more villainous person in America than that man. Kamala ran pass blocking for her like a left tackle, protecting the blind side of her quarterback. And yeah, so that signals to Wall Street, you know, she's going to play ball.
She will play ball.
Like, you know, she'll play ball.
She will play ball.
And like some dumb libs will be like, "Oh my God, it's awesome that we have a WLC in the White House." You know, while the Wall Street people are just laughing all the way to the fucking bank. It makes me sick.
Yeah. And you know, they're going to cite stuff like one study showed that I think she's the fourth most liberal voting member of the Senate, which people need to understand the context of that. The Senate is not the House. There is no AOC in the Senate. There is no Ilhan Omar in the Senate.
Well, there is one. There's name is Bernie Sanders. That's the only one.
Right, there's one. There's one. There's Bernie freaking Sanders, and there's literally the rest of the Senate. Like, so the concept of being the quote unquote top 10 liberal senator, it's just extremely low. And again, you know, you're gonna see it. I know just anecdotally on my timeline, fancy Negroes on Instagram are loving it. If you are, you know, somebody who went to an HBCU, joined a Divine Nine fraternity or sorority, this is like, my goodness. When I tell you a circle jerk is happening in those circles, it's happening. But at the same time, she got creamed in the primaries amongst younger black people by the Warrens and the Bernies.
Well, not the Warrens.
They just got creamed. Well,
just the Warren, just the Bernies. Warren did not do very well with black folks. She got like less than 1%.
Got creamed by that demographic of people. But again, older professional type of black people, you know, just the idea that you self-identify as a black person who's an achiever, an upwardly mobile black person. The black bourgeoisie is going to eat this up with a fork and a knife. They are just going to love it. Somebody like me, I'm less gung-ho or happy about it. But again, as Nando mentioned at the top, this could have gone way worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, he could have picked straight up an Ed Rendell type. He could have been like straight up, yo, Joe Manchin, let's do it. You know, and again, that's what you're gonna hear from the corporate media class. She's not a Joe Manchin. She's not a conservative Dem. She's barely moderate. They're going to say that she's center left, which again, the bar to be that in the completely corporatist Democratic Party establishment is extremely low. My normie ass girlfriend today or yesterday said she got an endorsement from Sean King.
I saw that, yeah.
And said it unironically. So that's all you need to know about how this is gonna play with the normies. They're gonna love it. It's just perfect for what they're about and what they stand for. No, and before we go, it's just, you know, again, I don't want to be this overly pessimistic and killing the pick and killing the ticket. But, you know, again, Nando sends over a tweet from 2019.
It's classic.
Where it's just, and let me just find this really quickly to read it for you guys. And it's everything you need to know about this person, everything you need to know about the party establishment. This is their ideology in a freaking nutshell. And the tweet goes, quote, it's from
Kamala,
2019.
tweeted by Kamala's account.
It's from Kamala Harris's Twitter account. Yesterday, I announced that as president, I'll establish a student loan debt forgiveness program for Pell Grant recipients. Great. This is starting off fantastic. Like, hell yeah. Let's get rid of the crippling student loan debt. Trillions of bucks of normal, working class type of people, or even slightly professional class type of people whose lives are being ruined by just crippling student loan debt. The tweet continues. For Pell Grant recipients who start a business that operates for 3 years in disadvantaged communities.
So
what
like,
the
like
fuck
12
are you
people in
talking
America
about?
qualify for this thing.
Like, what are you talking
like literally
about?
12
like,
people in America qualify for this like Rube Goldberg neoliberal nightmare policy, like where you have to like fill out 25,000 forms, to prove that you opened up like a taco truck in the ghetto or something. Yeah.
It's just insanity. It's like it's more of this, the market solves every single need you ever had in the history of the world all the time. Like, it's just insane ideology, son. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, we can't just forgive student loan debt. We just can't do that. We can't just, forgive student loan debt. Like, because that would just be immoral. That would just be messed up.
They see it as immoral. They see it as helping people out. They see it as fundamentally immoral. You see it with things like student debt. They say it creates a moral hazard, and you see it now with even Democrats on this extension of the unemployment insurance. Many Democrats are even getting on board with the idea that unemployment insurance is immoral because it disincentivizes work. And it's like, guys,
right?
Oh my God, like just it's pure ideology, like into your veins. Like, just get over it. Help people. People are suffering in this country. Just do it. Shut up.
Yep. Yeah. All right, then we move on to Minnesota, where Ilhan Omar kicked ass, man. There's no way to put it. She beat her opponent by a margin of 18 points. Incredible amount of turnout. Man, Dave Weigel showed a graphic that I thought was pretty cool on Twitter. Ilhan Omar got 93,000 votes on her own in her primary victory, and that QAnon candidate in Georgia in a Republican runoff, there was a total of 70,000 votes cast in that runoff, right? And Ilhan Omar in her primary got 93,000 on her own. Like, that's just a little factoid that y'all need to understand the level of enthusiasm she's able to drum up. I'm just like, this is an incredible victory, man. It's a continuation of some of the stuff we've seen from DSA and Justice Democratic types. Of course, Jamal Bowman and the Cori Bushes and all of that stuff. It's just awesome to see, Nando.
Yeah, I mean, it's a continuation of the theme that we talked about last week with Rashida Tlaib, and that the mainstream press was hyping up this race over and over again. It's like, oh my God, Ilhan Omar could lose to this arbitration attorney that no one gives a fuck about. Millions of dollars poured into that race from dark money and AIPAC because they hate Ilhan Omar because she thinks Palestinians are human beings. So, the mainstream press was just following suit and saying that, oh my God, Ilhan Omar fighting for her political life. Same thing with Rashida Tlaib. Same thing with AOC when she ran against Michelle Caruso Cabrera, a Republican Wall Street TV personality. And all three of them absolutely crushed their races. I mean, by like 30 points on average, each of them. So It just goes to show, like, the deck is stacked against him from a media standpoint. But when you are this kind of congressperson that actually does stuff, that is actually visible, that is actually out there kind of advocating for your constituents and the needs of the people and all these things, like, once you get in there, the hardest thing is getting in. But once you're in, they will reward you for that over and over and over again. If you deliver the goods like that for your people, they will reward you over and over again, no matter how hostile the media is. It's just a complete repudiation of the conventional wisdom that you have to be like more moderate when you're in there and all that stuff. Like, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib especially are very kind of unapologetic in their leftness, their leftism. And Omar has just been the subject of all kinds of like heinous, absolutely heinous attacks. I feel
like of all of, well, no, I don't know. It's got to be a tie between her and AOC. AOC has been so visible. She's turned into a sort of celebrity of sorts. And so the right kind of uses her. She's like she's like a figurehead, or like she's a symbol for something that the right knows that their base is completely against. Just some mouthy broad from the Northeast. We don't need that. We don't like that. We don't like that. No. And so they've used her as an avatar. That's the word that I was using. Yeah. They've used her as an avatar for, things that they hate. So she's gotten it a lot. Like, she is constantly on Fox News. But Ilhan Omar has been, man, and she gets it from people who ostensibly are supposed to be leftward leaning, liberal leaning. She gets it from both sides of the equation, and she gets it pretty tough too. For not backing down from talking about maybe some of the nice things that Castro did for poor people in Cuba.
Yeah. Or, you're right that AOC gets it a lot worse from the right, but liberals love AOC, Yes. Whereas Ilhan Omar obviously gets it from the right, but also from the libs. The libs hate Ilhan Omar. Like, they hate her, So that's like the biggest difference, is that the libs have been constantly trying to undermine AOC, Ilhan Omar, whereas they kind of like AOC, they like her brand.
She's good at playing the game.
Yeah.
She's very good at playing the game, and we've seen it just throughout the course of her tenure, right? Yeah. When she chooses to pick in battles, when she chooses to go against the establishment, the established order in the House, she's been more strategic. She's been, quite frankly, more political. There's no other way to put it than some of the other members of the squad. Plus, she's photogenic, and not to say that Ilhan Omar isn't, because let's face it, she's hot.
Yeah.
But she's been playing the game pretty good. And, again, we try to always bring it full circle here on the show. It's important that these people are winning these races. It's important that they're turning their seats into safe seats while being loud and proud lefties. Yeah. It's important that they're doing that because, as Nando just pointed out, we need to get them to the place where they become powerful enough in the party where even the annoying neoliberal wing of the party would be like, shit, man, we kind of got to put these people on.
Yeah.
Right? They've become celebrities. They've become powerful. Yeah. They've become names and faces. We got to start making them a part of stuff. And that's how you achieve power. There's no other way to put it. There's no way to get an Ilhan Omar type of person onto Joe Biden's presidential ticket. That's just not freaking happening at the point that we are right now. But, what we have to hope for and push for is that she makes it through the crucible of the dynamics of the Democratic Party, and she comes out the other side not too much of a whore. And that's not gender specific. No, that is literally what happens to you when you go through the machine that is, party politics in this country. Yeah. And so, not everybody comes out of it Bernie, man, straight up and down. But not everybody spends that much time in, the government or in the House or the Senate and comes out of it as somebody who still has pretty solid moral clarity intact. Yeah. So, that's why these races are important.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's unequivocal good news. I mean, it's one of those things that you hold on to in these kind of dark times, is that there is this kind of crew in the Congress, and Cori Bush is coming in, and Jamal Bowman's coming in, and Mondaire Jones coming in. It's basically doubling the size of the quote unquote squad, and diversifying the geography of it. I mean, I still think we need some more Bernie-crats in the Southwest. I mean, there's huge potential there, especially with Mexican Americans,
the brown people,
who rallied around Bernie in a way that was really remarkable and very undercovered. But it hasn't produced yet candidates that have won House races and things like that. That seems to be like the next obvious place to build real power in the Congress is in those areas. But yeah, unequivocal good news. I love Ilhan Omar. I'm a big fan. I find her to be a genuinely inspiring person when that's very few and far between. Basically, for me, it's her and Bernie are the ones that really do kind of speak to me on a much more visceral level than any other politicians. And if she's listening to the Woke Bros, as I'm sure she is, Ilhan Omar, come on the show. I love you.
Yes, we love you, Ilhan Omar, or Ilhan.
Yeah.
Ilhan. Yeah. Excuse me. I'm gonna get that down pat.
She's telling you how to do it, man.
I'm gonna get that down pat, and y'all gonna be sick of me and these renunciations. Watch. And so, finally, man, we end up over the weekend. I happened to be in Palm Springs. I was in a pool.
Wow, fancy.
Enjoying. I was enjoying some hard seltzers.
Hell yeah.
Gazing at the stars when it came over the wire that the president had he'd issued an executive order to basically extend the unemployment insurance benefits that was in the what did they call the CARES Act? Was that the
Yeah, it was the CARES Act. Yeah, the
relief program or whatever. Instead, and taking it from $600 extra as it was to $400 extra. Essentially, decreeing like this is what I would like to see happen and we can unpack all the reasons why, the Republican president might want that to be the case.
Yeah.
And then, as the days follow, it gets disingenuous, like you can't actually do this. There has to be a couple of processes. And what it ends up being is that from where I sit, Nando, it seems like Donald Trump is sending a message to Mitch McConnell and crew, like, get this shit through ASAP.
Yeah.
We want this through.
Yeah.
The people are going to love it coming from me.
Yeah.
Like, I get to take credit for literally putting money in their pockets. My shit is coming up in November. I want to win again.
Yeah.
Get this through. Stop fucking around. And what you see happening in the Senate, as always with the Republican leadership, they're having a hard time choosing between utter cruelty and humanity. Like, it's like, oh, what do we do? Sometimes we want to be human, but our ideology dictates that we treat people like shit at every turn. How do we do it, Nando? It's like, that scene in fucking, in Macbeth.
Oh, shit.
Where he's just having this like existential crisis, like he cannot make a decision. He's just
Hamlet.
He's just right
to be or
Hamlet,
not to be.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Not Hamlet. Macbeth. Not Macbeth. Hamlet.
Yeah.
Cut that shit out, Rob, so I can sound smart. Hamlet.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
Yeah.
Hamlet, where he's just like the indecision. What do I do?
What?
Do I just murder people and hope that they starve to death, or do I just let them have $400 extra?
Yeah.
It's
not.
insane.
I don't think it's right that it's the decision between utter cruelty and humanity. It's they want to do utter cruelty all the time. It's just sometimes that being human actually benefits their own self-interest, especially at the polls. And we talked about it a little last week that there's a split in the Republican Party because I think that the people who are up for re-election right now desperately want to pass some form of extension on the relief programs because they know that if they throw people off these relief programs, they will lose big in November. I think Mitch McConnell has already written off the election as a loss. I think that's kind of the split between McConnell and Trump is that Trump knows that if he passes like another version of this relief bill, he might have a chance. And if he passes if they pass a generous one, like maybe if they expanded the $600 to $800, like he might even win. Like that's kind of thing that you could win you an election. But I think that they've written him off, and they'd rather just do the bidding of their donors and play their cards in the next round, 2022, 2024. And
hold on, Nando. I want to unpack that for a second because I think it's important for people to understand.
Yeah.
the decision that's actually being faced here. When we talk about the donor class and their sphere of influence, it's essentially, if you're not up for election and you're just like, there's no reason for me to upset my donors right now, who, let's face it, they want people to go back to work for the unlivable wages that they currently pay them at. That's what it's coming down to. It's like, we need stop letting these people stay home. We want them coming back to work for $8.50 an hour. What the hell are you idiots doing out there? Like, that makes no sense. These people were perfectly happy working for slave wages. Get them back out there, right? But as a politician, how do you not just make the calculation of like, all right, you guys will get over this by the time it's time for me to be reelected? Because what are you going to do? You're going to back the Dems? Yeah. You know, like, it's, I don't understand the calculation being made there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they could lose and back the Dems. I mean, the biggest factor in people's voting is the state of the economy.
No, I don't mean the voting. I'm talking about the donor class. Mitch McConnell's favorite ruling class people.
I mean, they're not going to back the Dems, but they might back someone else within the Republican Party.
Got you.
And yeah, I mean, that's just what it is, and it's also like just deeply ideological as well. So yeah, I mean, that's what's going on there. I mean, it's been really remarkable because the $600 on extension, the $600 unemployment insurance bonus, which is on top of, like, you know, the existing unemployment insurance, actually was relatively generous for the American context. It's like, it's piss poor in like the European context, but it's relatively generous in the American context. Tons of workers were actually making more money off of the unemployment insurance than they were in their previous jobs. And there's been kind of there was this Reddit thread that went kind of viral this week of workers talking about their experience receiving the unemployment insurance. And it was just like unbelievably moving, because you see all these people who've just been like living on a knife's edge for years, like working bullshit jobs for minimum wage, struggling to scrape by like every single week, just like stressing out over rent, working their ass off in these like utterly demeaning jobs, and just having literally like no time to do anything for themselves, anything that like makes life worth living, you know, like learning how to play an instrument,
put any money away, like some kind of emergency comes up, I got $200 for it,
you know, or you know, learning something, or picking up a hobby, like these kind of things, like, you know. And so a lot of these workers for the first time have had the ability to do something like that. And you're hearing stories of people who are like, man, I finally like learned how to cook for myself. I've like lost 30 pounds. I feel like really healthy for the first time. You know, I feel like I've finally been able to take a breath after 10 years of just like, you know, working my ass off and stressing about money every single second of every single day. And it's just, it's a window into like what even the most mild redistributive policies in America would do. Just like the unleashing of human potential, the unleashing of dignity that would go across for millions and millions of people in this country who suffer so many indignities every single day. You know, it's just like, it's really just a small window. And of course, they're just going to crack that door open a little bit and then slam it right back shut. And make these people work for what you called, I think accurately, slave wages. You know, it's just, it's really,
there's no two ways about it. Like the data is out there. Wages have stagnated. Nothing else has. Okay. It's still really expensive. Grocery prices have gone up. Rents, forget about it. Like, there's nothing stagnant about rents. That continues to go up. So cost of living increases, your wages stay exactly the same, and people are expected to live that way. Right. And you know, I'm glad you brought up the idea of like, well, first of all, I think Donald Trump gets the idea better than a lot of people. Just the concept of a transaction. Just like, I give them $800 a week, I'm going to win.
You will.
I'm going to win.
If he does that, if he manages to pull off something like that, he'll win 100%.
He will win. If he increased the amount of money he was giving people to not go back to these jobs,
Look
he
at his,
would win.
his approval rating after he did
down.
the Trump bucks. You know, the check with his name,
The
the 1200
$1,200
with his name on it, which was like a genius political move, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, look at him! He's putting his fucking signature."
It's so narcissistic, but
he
he knows,
he's
but
savvy
he
in that
gets
sense.
it.
You know, he's got like a, I don't know, he's got like a Carnival Barker sensibility to him.
Yes.
And that's savvy. And look at his approval rating in the weeks after the 1200 came out. Shut up. You know, it shut up. Imagine if he just did that over and over again. It would keep shooting up. And that's how politics works. Give people easily understandable things that improve their lives, not Pell Grant relief for WOC BIPOC who start a coding business in underserved areas for a minimum of 3.5 years or some bullshit like that. You just give them like, oh, you check.
How does somebody with crippling student debt start a business in the, like, how do you even achieve that? The point of you incurring student debt is that you didn't have cash. Forget, whatever. That's just the perfect way to end the show, though, Nando. What you said, it's like, that's politics, dude. Doing stuff for people in a way that they can clearly understand how it improves their lives.
Lyndon Johnson, when he was a first-term congressman, one of the youngest congressmen of all time, in his first term, he busted his ass to bring electricity to his district. His district did not have electricity. It was people living in very rough conditions in very remote area of Texas. And he brought electricity. He ran on that forever, and they rewarded him forever. He's like, I brought electricity to the hill country. All these women that used to have to, like, you know, break their backs, like washing clothes and cooking, all that stuff, like with like unbelievably harsh conditions, now could just like put it in a washing machine and all that shit. I brought electricity to the hill country. Vote for me. That was it. And he won every single race.
That's it. That's it. That's what we try to explain on the show. That's what we like when people are just like, oh, you just sat there and you killed such and such. It's just like, bruh, it's not about, you know, this person's a Democrat, so they pass this. Or it's not even about, oh, they need to be some pure persons. Like, are you trying to do shit for people or are you not? Like, that's essentially the litmus test here. And, you know, that's what we're going to continue to fight for. Of course, man, make sure you become a Patreon of CountTheDings.com, man. We know this is rough times. If you can't, we understand. But if you can spare, you know, 2 cups of Starbucks a month to become a patron of CountTheDings.com, please do so. It helps pay for us to do this outstanding content that we bring to you every single week. Make sure you're checking out Cinephobe. Make sure you're checking out the original Black Opinions Matter show. Growing Up the Same. Trey is getting some outstanding guests on Growing Up the Same. Of course, there's the Friday mailbag. Wednesday service with Naima Cochran, who, you know, she just wrote up a dope joint on Billboard about the Versus movement that sprung up during quarantine. Just another example of Black creativity here in America. Just make sure you're checking out all of the shows, man. We're going to see you guys next week. Always remember, left is best. Rest in peace to my brother, Michael Brooks.
Later.
We out, man.